What America got right, and the world copied. Every country has a story it tells about itself. France says it gave the world liberty. Britain says it built civilization. China says it invented everything first. Russia says it saved humanity twice. But there's one country whose story is different. Because the world didn't just hear it. The world copied it. And today we're going to talk about what America actually got right. Not the myths. Not the propaganda. The real things, the ideas, the systems, the experiments, that the rest of the world looked at and said, we want that too. 1. The idea that had never been tried. In 1776, something happened that had never happened before in human history. A group of people sat down and wrote a document that said, government doesn't give you rights. You were born with them. Government just can't take them away. That sounds simple today. It wasn't simple then. For thousands of years, rights came from kings. From gods. From bloodlines. From conquest. The idea that rights were inherent, that they belonged to every person simply because they were human, was radical. Dangerous. Revolutionary. Thomas Jefferson didn't invent this idea alone. He borrowed from Locke, from Rousseau, from centuries of philosophy. But he did something those philosophers never did. He put it in a founding document. He made it law. And the world noticed. The French Revolution, 13 years later, echoed the same language. Liberty, equality, the rights of man. Latin American independence movements in the 19th century quoted Jefferson directly. The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, written by a committee of people from dozens of countries, is built on the same foundation. One document. Written by imperfect men, in an imperfect country. And it changed the grammar of how humanity talks about itself. 2. The startup. Before anyone called it that. Here's something most people don't think about. America was the first startup nation. Not a kingdom passed down through bloodlines. Not an empire built through conquest over centuries. A deliberate construction. A design system. Built by people who sat in a room, argued, compromised, and engineered a country from scratch. That mindset, build it, test it, fix it, scale it, became America's operating system. And it showed up everywhere. The Constitution itself has an amendment process. The founders knew they'd get things wrong. They built in a mechanism to fix mistakes. That's not how kingdoms work. That's how good software works. Silicon Valley didn't appear from nowhere. It grew from a culture that was already there, a culture that said failure is data, not disgrace. Try again. Iterate. The same culture that produced the Wright brothers, Edison, Ford, and a teenager in a garage who thought he could build a computer. Today, every country with ambition runs accelerators, builds innovation hubs, teaches entrepreneurship in universities. They're all copying a mindset that America normalized. 3. The market. Free, open, and ruthless. America didn't invent capitalism. But it perfected a version of it the world had never seen. Open markets. Anti-monopoly laws. Venture capital. Stock exchanges accessible to ordinary people. The idea that anyone, regardless of family name or social class, could build a business and compete. In 19th century Europe, who you were born to determined almost everything. Aristocracy controlled land, capital, opportunity. Ambition without the right last name went nowhere. America said, last name doesn't matter. Idea matters. Execution matters. That was genuinely new. And when it worked, when Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford proved that a man born with nothing could build an empire, the world watched. And started building stock exchanges, commercial banks, venture funds, entrepreneurship ecosystems. Japan's post-war economic miracle was partly built on American market principles, introduced during occupation. South Korea's chaebol system, love it or hate it, borrowed the American model of aggressive private enterprise backed by state ambition. Singapore's entire economic philosophy was designed by a man, Lee Kuan Yew, who studied American economic thinking carefully. The free market, American style, became the default template for development. 4. Universities. The knowledge factory. In 1900, if you wanted the best education in the world, you went to Germany. In 2024, 8 of the top 10 universities in the world are American. How did that happen? 2 things America got spectacularly right. First, the land-grant university system. In 1862, Abraham Lincoln signed a law giving federal land to states to fund public universities. Not just for elites. For farmers, engineers, teachers, anyone. The idea that higher education should be accessible to ordinary citizens, that was radical in the 19th century. Second, research funding. After World War II, America made a bet. Invest massively in university research. Don't tell researchers what to discover. Just fund curiosity. The results were staggering. The internet came from DARPA-funded university research. GPS, military research, open to the public. MRI machines, university labs. mRNA vaccines that ended a pandemic, decades of publicly funded basic research. The model was simple: fund smart people, get out of their way, and let the results surprise you. Every country that wants to compete today is copying this. China is building world-class universities at extraordinary speed. Europe increased research funding. Gulf states are pouring money into university campuses. They're all running the American playbook. 5. Popular culture. The soft power nobody planned. Here's what's interesting about American soft power. Nobody planned it. Hollywood wasn't a government program. Jazz wasn't a state initiative. McDonald's didn't expand globally because of foreign policy. Levi's, Coca-Cola, rock and roll, hip-hop, these weren't exported by design. They were pulled out of America by the world's appetite. And that appetite revealed something important. American culture spoke a universal language. Not because it was perfect. Because it was free. Free to be loud, irreverent, commercial, contradictory, self-critical. American movies criticized America. American music challenged American society. American comedians mocked American presidents. That freedom was the product. And the world wanted it. Today every country has a pop culture industry trying to replicate that formula. K-pop is the most successful. South Korea studied the American entertainment machine and built something extraordinary with it. Bollywood. Nigerian Afrobeats. Latin reggaeton. All of them learned from the American model of packaging culture for global consumption. Even the countries that officially reject American culture, their young people are watching American content anyway. That's not imperialism. That's just a good product. 6. Reinvention. The permission to start over. There's one thing America offers that almost no other culture does as naturally. The second chance. In most of the world, failure follows you. Business failure, personal failure, social failure, it marks you. The culture remembers. Doors close. In America, bankruptcy law was designed to let people start over. The entire mythology of the country is built on reinvention: immigrants who left everything behind and rebuilt, entrepreneurs who failed 5 times before succeeding, cities that burned down and came back bigger. This isn't just culture. It's infrastructure. Chapter 11: Bankruptcy. The legal mechanism that lets companies restructure instead of simply dying, has been copied by dozens of countries. Because it works. It keeps talent and assets in circulation instead of locking them in failure. The permission to fail and try again, that cultural software, is something the world is still learning to install. 7. The experiment continues. Here's the honest part. America got a lot wrong too. Slavery. Segregation. Inequality that persists today. Foreign policy that contradicted every principle the founders wrote down. A healthcare system that remains a scandal by the standards of every other developed nation. None of that disappears. But here's what's remarkable. America built a system that can criticize itself. Courts that can challenge the president. A press that can investigate the government. Citizens who can march in the streets and change laws. That self-correcting mechanism, imperfect, slow, messy, is itself one of the great inventions. Because the alternative is a system that can't admit mistakes. And systems that can't admit mistakes don't survive. Final. So what did America get right? The idea that rights belong to people, not governments. The culture of building something from nothing. The permission to fail and begin again. The bet on open knowledge and free inquiry. The accidental genius of a culture so free it couldn't help but spread. These aren't American ideas anymore. They belong to anyone who uses them. And the most American thing about that? America would probably say, good. That was the whole point. If this made you see America differently, even just a little, that's enough for me. Like if you think these ideas matter. Subscribe if you want more of this. And leave a comment, I read every single one. See you in the next one.